Welcome to Bullish and Beyond. It's Beery the Bull. I'm your AI co-host. Join myself, Brian the MacMan, and JT Knows Things while we dive deep into the world of stocks, crypto, and how to live a bullish life. It's time to get bullish, and there's no better place to start than right here. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, it's Brian the MacMan. Welcome back for another awesome episode of Bullish and Beyond, where we are bullish about all things stocks, crypto, and life. And life is happening, folks. It's 2026. And I bet here everyone is thinking about new ways to allocate funds in this year to make outsized returns. Looking to beat that S&P 500, that Dow, whatever your kind of benchmark is. I want to help you crush it. And I exceeded the benchmarks last year by quite a fair bit on all my accounts. And some of my hot picks, I still love going to this year. And I want to give everyone here the rundown on where I think some big opportunities are going into the year. All right, we're going to dig into my top five. But let's start off with my number one, RocketLab. I am telling sophisticated investors about RocketLab, and they have never even heard about the company. I am shocked. This is the number two space company in the entire world behind SpaceX. And SpaceX is privately owned by no one else other than Elon Musk. And you can't invest in it unless you have some serious outside capital. So RocketLab, top pick for space in the public market. And here's why. They are completely vertically integrated. Not only do they launch and have amazing rockets, they also make their own satellites. They have all sorts of other systems that they bought up. They have a whole line of companies they bought that have an entire vertical integration in space. And the space industry is literally about to take off in this next decade. We are just at the tip of it. So now is a great time to get in. Even though it's run up a lot in the last year, there's still a ton of potential. And if you had bought it at the beginning of the year, you'd already be up 30%. 30% is a massive number to be up in an annual amount, let alone a week. So guess what? RocketLab still has room to run. It's up a lot, but it's not stopping here. Yes, it is hitting all new highs. So I'm not sure today would be the best day to buy into it, but maybe buy into it on a pullback. There's great news coming out all the time in this space. So it's really hard to time it. I see this as a long-term investment. If you bought RocketLab and you hit me up in 5 or 10 years, you'd be so happy that you did. So I think that everyone needs to get a piece of this. And there's other companies that are in the space industry. One of them notable is EcoStar. They build a lot of satellites for communication. Ticker symbol is SATS. And they've gone up a lot this year. There's a lot of space companies getting a lot of notoriety and stuff like that lately, but not all of them are profitable. Some of them are, long shots. RocketLab is just about as sure as a winner as you can pick in the stock market because it's so well positioned. It's at the top of the space industry in terms of its capabilities. I like buying companies that are literally the breadwinners inside of their space. That's why I buy Apple, for instance. They're the number one physical device company and ecosystem in the entire world with, multiple billions of users. Absolutely insane. Companies, like that can, really have such a strong moat around their business. That'll lead me right into my next big pick, Nvidia. They were up almost 40% this last year, didn't hit the triple digit returns of the years before, but they still have so much potential. And the CEO, Jensen Huang, was at CES, and they just announced that their new platform for chips called Vera Rubin is going to be coming online and being sold in the second half of this year. So everything is moving very fast towards their next generation. It is beyond sold out. And there's another catalyst happening for Nvidia is that supposedly China is now going to start buying those H200 chips again. That first that China said they weren't allowed to do it, and then the U.S. government said they weren't allowed to sell them, and then China said no thank you after the U.S. said yes. But supposedly it's all coming back online now, and there's like 10 times the amount of orders that they could even fulfill. So it's pretty insane. And they're actually going to make customers pay up front. A lot of times customers could, pay in the back end after they've gotten their shipments. No, 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 not this time. They are going to pay upfront. So if they want those in 6 months, they'll still pay today to get that place in line in full. So that'll be a lot of nice revenue and profit coming in for Nvidia. So very, very excited for Nvidia's future this year. There is insatiable amount of demand for these AI chips. And one small hole people could have picked in the past with Nvidia is that their chips were great for training, but some other chips out there might have been better for inferencing. And the difference is the training is, getting ChatGPT knowledgeable enough to be able to answer the questions. The inferencing is when we actually do submit a prompt and get an answer back. That's the inferencing. So why inferencing is going to be important is that there's going to be, the training might slow down in the future in theory. I don't actually think that, but some people do. And there'll be more inferencing happening not only in the cloud, but also on the edge on your devices. And, Nvidia has really owned that training market. And a lot of people thought they weren't sure they could own the inferencing market because other, technologies were cheaper to inference, like Google's TPU or Grok's LMUs. And they just basically bought Grok, not Grok, the AI like Elon owns. It's actually Grok, GROQ, and they are a chip company, not as well known. They did their last raise at around 10 billion-ish, but now they got bought out in quotes because not technically a buy, but essentially it was. They acquired the leadership team, plus the ability to license all the technology of this, different type of chip that will then be amazingly fast and cheaper to inference. And, now that the CEO and the top leadership team is essentially working for Nvidia, it's as close to a buyout as you could possibly get without taking off the regulators. So they stayed under that regulator umbrella. They can technically license their product to other companies. Maybe they will. I honestly don't know. But the main point is they are going to have the upper hand in that inference space. And that is key to that next leg up. The next 5 years is going to be super big in this space. Another cool thing they just announced was their platform for driving with AI. And, Elon shot back that they're still years behind, and that's probably true. But they do have a new software suite they just came up with to take the AI from the cameras straight down to the actuators of the cars and everything in between with a reasoning model that's going to tell the user and the company why they're making those actions. So it'll tell exactly why it chose to, switch lanes, swerve, take a turn, whatever that might be. So it'll be able to learn more quickly by having that knowledge and understanding why those actions were taken. And driverless technology is going to be super crucial in the future, leading to my next pick, which is Tesla. I love Tesla. I've owned it since it was around $11 a share. I'm a super proponent of Elon's businesses and Tesla in particular with the self-driving coming out. Some haters out there are saying that the value of Tesla should be way lower based upon the car sales. But who cares about car sales if you own the future robotaxi market? And the robotaxi is out there in the wild. I have seen videos of it actually driving around the streets of Austin and LA, for example. It's real, it's coming, and it's coming this year. And you can already get a robotaxi ride through another car like the Model Y that we've seen out there, particularly in Austin. And they're about to do a big rollout to some of the larger cities coming out this year. I live in South Florida, so hopefully Miami gets it here soon. I'd love to take that and, show everyone on social media what it's like to be inside the driverless Tesla. And Tesla's really proving you can do it without LiDAR. They could always pivot if they need to add LiDAR back in the future. But why do that? It's so expensive. If they can use the eyes, just like our human eyes can see, and they have high-end cameras on the Tesla, you have eight 4K cameras around the car, and you have all sorts of other, different sensors and stuff like that. I think that's going to be good enough. Maybe there's some extreme conditions, where it doesn't work. But I don't think we need to talk about the extremes conditions under a massive, snowstorm. Maybe you shouldn't be driving at all in that snowstorm. So let's think about that. So in safer conditions, I've even seen torrential downstorms of people showing their full self-driving right now, and it's incredible. I have been in full self-driving cars I do have self-driving in my Tesla, but mine is a generation older, so the quality is not quite as good. Someone just showcased that they were able to drive across the country with zero interactions with the car. It did it 100% themselves. The car did 100% on its own, including stopping at the charging stations and backing up everything. The guy just had to plug it in, unplug, and that was it. So very impressive what this car can do already right now. It's only getting smarter, exponentially smarter, actually. The amount of miles that the Tesla collects is so far above and beyond these other companies that it's absolutely insane. However, one other company out there is doing some self-driving, has other cool stuff going on that I also want to throw into my top pick here, and that is Google. I've been a Google investor for a very long time. I actually bought some back in college, and it's done tremendously well. The reason I like Google is magnitude of their offerings. They have so many different things going on and moonshots inside the company. So while we're talking about driverless, let's talk about Waymo. So Waymo, I would think, is the top in that LiDAR space and, most known other than, Tesla's robotaxi. So they're going to get a lot of press out there, and they will have market share in this space for sure. They can license it to other companies. I think that's going to be a great business. They just did a valuation recently at over $100 billion on that one segment of their business of the Waymo unit. But there's so many things else going on inside Google. So very excited to see what they're going to come up with. Inside the chip space, they have their TPUs, which they're saying are much cheaper to use than Nvidia when it comes to inferencing. And they're having other companies buy them now, like Meta, for instance, is buying a bunch of TPUs from Google. And Google Cloud has been crushing it. Very, very solid. And their AI is incredible. Gemini Pro. The fact that Apple is licensing it to basically run their new Siri is a very big proof point, in my opinion. Apple would not pick someone to run Siri unless it was the best model. So they picked Gemini Pro. That must be the best model they could come up with that had the most spot on answers. And anyone else that thought that Google search wasn't going to be relevant, they're wrong, because Google search is still very relevant. People are going on there all the time. Even though I use ChatGPT a ton for my searches, Google search is still incredible, and the AI answers are only getting better. So I see that as a long-term market that's not going away from some of the haters saying people aren't going to be searching anymore. So many different things happening inside Google. Those are just a few of them. So very excited to see, what else they're going to come up with. And while we're talking about chips, let's jump on my last one here I'm going to throw out for the day, TSM. So TSM actually makes the chips for all these companies, like Nvidia, for example. They actually do all the physical creation of the chip itself. Their big headquarters being out in South Korea has been a risk, and that was, maybe a downside that we could have talked about in the past. And, it still is, the ongoing discussion with China thinking they might have some control over, South Korea was the wrong word. I meant Taiwan. Sometimes China is trying to say they're going to own Taiwan. So TSM has been making sure to offset some of those potential downsides of opening up all the factories that they have in the U.S. There's a bunch of factories in the U.S. that are going to be both opening up in the near future and have already opened up in Arizona, for example. And no, they're off to the races. They're making some of the highest end chips already at the fab there. So very cool stuff happening on the U.S. soil with TSM. They are the #1 chip manufacturer in the world by far. It's not even close. This is another one of those where I pick the winner. They're in the best in the industry, rather. There's other companies that do this, but why pick the third horse when you can just pick the best horse? Doesn't mean it's going to go up the most percentage, but it probably is the less risky overall, with still having a massive growth potential. And TSM's up a lot this year already. They've had a couple of great announcements come out. So really cool to see what's going to happen over the next year. So there it is. TSM, Google, Tesla, RocketLab, and Nvidia. Those are my top picks for this year. So far, we're going to follow them. Get in. It's going to be a long ride this year. I'm sure it's going to be turbulent, but looking forward to the fun ahead and cannot wait to stay on top of these investments and many others. Do your own research. Look at these areas that if you don't like the stocks that I'm talking about, at least look at the areas that they're in. Space, AI, chips, driverless cars. These are the areas that are going to be booming. I like to invest in the future areas. Think about that Wayne Gretzky quote about going to where the puck is. You have to skate to the puck. In stocks, you have to pick the stocks that are up and coming, that are the industries that are blowing up in the future. Those are what we want. They will keep growing. And that is why some of them have crazy P's, for example. It's because they are exploding. They have so much potential. These are in high demand and people are bidding up the shares. I'm in that too. I'm along for the ride. I'm here for you all. So stay bullish, stay on it, and have a great 2026. Cheers.
Bulls. That's a wrap on today's episode of Bullish and Beyond. Remember, the market never sleeps and neither should your ambitions. Whether it's stocks, crypto, or just leveling up in life, stay focused, stay bullish, and keep charging forward. Keep your energy high and your mindset bullish. This is Beery the Bull, your AI co-host, Brian the Mac Man, and JT Knows Things signing off. All content published by Bullish and Beyond, LLC reflects personal opinions only and is provided for informational purposes. Please conduct your own research and discuss with your accountant and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The information presented should not be taken as financial advice. We are not financial advisors. Nothing you hear, see, or read in our content should be considered as any form of financial, investment, or legal advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any assets, or to make any financial decisions.